morning, everyone. My name is Heather and I'm on the conference committee. And today I'm going to introduce John Antonucci. John is a leadership trainer, karaoke enthusiast. He didn't have it on here, by the way. HR consultant and business coach. He has over 20 years of business and leadership experience, ranging from coaching youth sports to international business leadership. He is also an internationally recognized and award-winning speaker and the author of Servant-Minded Leadership, How Mindfulness Changes Servant Leadership. It's a great title. I like that.
It's a super long title.
His firm, SML Consultative, provides organizations with dynamic solutions to empower positive employee experiences, productive employee engagement, and sustainable employee retention. In his rare moments of free time, John enjoys playing various sports, strumming the acoustic guitar, and enjoying the natural beauty of the mountains. See, karaoke wasn't even
I told you, but the guitar is.
Todd currently lives in South Carolina, USA. Please join me in welcoming John Antonucci.
She was supposed to start that with, "Hey, yeah." No, I'm joking.
You just told me just now not to do it, and I said, thankfully you said that because I was prepared.
You're awesome. You're awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, good morning. How is everyone doing this morning? How many of you were out last night at any of the karaoke / huts / who didn't get home till at least 10? Or at home, your room at least 10. 10? Okay, everyone was back by 10 because you knew you were, no? All right, how about 11? Anybody out still till 11? I'm the only one. Yeah, I'm an idiot, I know. That was bad. That was a bad idea. She just told me she got back at like midnight. And she's here, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, fantastic. Well, thank you all for being here. I did not know how many people to expect for this session. I was talking to people last night and they were like, yeah, I wouldn't expect a lot at the 7 a.m. session. I was like, my only hope is that there's some people here that are just here for the credits. And if you're just here for the credits, you're like, I got to maximize every hour on this. And 3 o'clock, which is when I'll be speaking again, that there's other fun stuff going on, and you would probably much rather do the fun stuff. Before we get started, I want to give you just a tiny bit about myself mainly not even before, but mainly so that you have a little bit of backstory. I have literally 20 years of leadership, but a lot of that is in training and development. I have been everything from a youth soccer coach to a martial arts instructor to HR trainer and onboarder to an actual training manager in corporate America. Now, I don't tell you all of that as like a brag or, hey, look at my acumen or my resume. I tell you that because I want you to kind of know the backstory that my heart, which is probably very similar to everybody else in this room, is to help people succeed. That is why I am here. That is what I've dedicated the majority of my adult life to doing. And when I am sharing the things that I'm sharing today, it's coming from that perspective. That's pretty much all I want to say about me today. What I'd like to do more is talk about something that I think impacts all of us, and it's probably why you signed up this morning, and that is why current performance, retention, and engagement strategies aren't working. And most importantly, how to fix it. What are we going to do about it? That's not supposed to happen. What did I just do? There we go. I hit the wrong button. And what to do about it. There we go. So, we have all been there. I know we have. I know this is going to resonate with each and every one of you. In fact, I just want to ask by raise of hands in your organization, how many of you have some sort of a benefits package? Awesome. How many of you have employee fun days or family wellness days or things like that? Okay, great. How many of you are offering wellness information or webinars or things like that to try to make sure your people? Awesome, fantastic. Most of you are doing that. How many of you are using some sort of an HRCM to try to manage this all? And maybe it's a kind of payroll. I know one of the big ones that's here is Paylocity. They've got like that all-in-one system, right? Yeah, okay, very good. And then how many of you, despite having all of that, have 1,000 emails in your inbox every week for all the other offers to make your employees happy, okay? And so this is kind of where we are all at every time. We're just doing the best that we can. We are doing what we think we should be doing. And I would imagine that if you're doing this, you're probably doing a lot more than this. This is probably not an exhaustive list. This is not designed to be an exhaustive list. This is designed to say, hey, you're putting an effort in. No matter how many complaints you get, no matter how many employees are saying, you guys don't care about us, you do. And this is like a check sheet. Yeah, we do. Of course we do that. Yeah, absolutely. Duh, we would do that as well. And yet, you find you're probably spending still way too much of your time trying to find the staff that you have to replace on a regular basis, despite all of this. So today in our session, that's why you're here, today's objectives, we want to analyze the limitations of current engagement strategies. I want to also identify some key factors that drive company culture, engagement, retention, and productivity. And I want to develop some actionable strategies to ensure a thriving workplace culture. What I hope you do not walk out with is like, oh, that was a neat idea. What I hope you will walk out with this morning is I have a plan to move forward, and we can actually bridge some of the gaps that exist. Before I get talking and do a whole lot, I actually want to invite you to wake up just a little bit, and we're going to do two things, all right? The first thing that I'm going to invite you to do is I'm going to invite everybody to stand. I know that it's morning. I know that it's early. I'm going to invite you to stand with me. Just so you can stretch if you need to. It's okay. I know we just got up, all right? I rolled out of bed 13 minutes ago. I get it. All right, and then I'm going to invite you to repeat after me. I'm awake. I'm awake. Alive. Alert. Joyous. Enthusiastic. And grateful for this day. Excellent. Stay standing. Don't move. What I would also like you to do now is I would like you to discuss these things with each other. Let's break up into groups of like 4 or 5. We'll have 5 minutes. Just talk about what current strategies are you using, what do you feel is working well, and what do you not feel is working well. The time begins now. Let's just get into a couple little groups. Welcome, come on in and find a group to join. Find a group to join. All right, about 30 seconds left. 30 seconds left. She's like, I'm doing too much. I need more time. we can bring our attention back here. Who would like to share something you discussed? What are you doing? What's working? What's not working? Who'd like to share what you're doing right now? Maybe 30 seconds of what you're doing.
So we have a lot of our hourly people that got promoted to salary. The company's a couple hundred years old. We make auto parts and we're growing. So there's a company called Stone Path through Ohio State that we're in a lot of our frontline, brand new frontline leaders, supervisors through some kind of training. Otherwise, it's Groundhog Day. It's the same problems day after day after day. So unless we put some kind of new tools in our tool belt, we're going to have the same issue going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. Give him a hand, please. There's a pen for you. Who would like to share what you think is working? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. She went to fan herself, and I was like, ooh. I don't know how I'm going to get you the mic. I'm going to walk her around is what I'm going to do. What's working?
So we actually have our health insurance premiums are 100% paid by the company for
Nice.
all employees. And the company offers free lunch, 4 different options for employees to choose from every single day.
Wow. Where do you work? No. I will quit immediately.
That definitely separates us, but we have a lot of technicians that's traveling extensively for the company. And we do have a 30% travel premiums, and that helps us a lot while they're out on the road.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to ask you to hold on to it just to see who else. Who's willing to be super vulnerable right now and tell us what you don't feel is working? I know this is a tough question. We got somebody in the back, so I'm going to come grab the mic from you on my way to her. Thank you so much. And thank you for being willing to be vulnerable. Let's give her a hand just in advance.
We were talking about like expansion. So several of us have started with like a smaller company. Now we're growing. Now we have multiple locations. So things that we were doing before, like being able to see the president and everyone knows their names, is now harder when you have 4 locations and you got to travel a lot. And we have technicians, so they don't come to the office every day. They're out in the field, so even bringing them in for something it's kind of a double-edged sword. Because it's like, hey, we appreciate you, but you're also not out making money and getting your production right now. Yeah. So it can kind of be like not great. So yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Growing pains. All right, all 3 of you, let's give you all a hand, please. Thank you all for sharing. So here's a question that might be kind of rhetorical, but it's an honest question at that. How do I know this? I'm not in HR. I'm not in your shoes. And yet, am I speaking your language? Is this the challenge that you're facing? The answer is pretty simple, and the answer is it's because I have truly seen it firsthand. Prior to starting my own organization, I worked for a company that, much like the one that was described, we were really trying to do our best. We weren't a large company. We had about 75 to 85 people at the time that I'm going to share with you today. And a lot of what we're going to go over is from that company. I don't work for that company. I have no affiliation with that company. In fact, that company has since been bought out, so it really doesn't even exist. But I'm going to share with you some things that we learned during that time, because I was serving in the role of training manager, working alongside HR. I like to call it HR adjacent. And we were facing a lot of the same things. We were doing our best. We really were. We wanted to do right by our staff. We wanted to give them the tools. We genuinely cared. The amount of conversations that we had at that executive level about how can we do the right thing by people was impressive. In fact, the CEO, you're talking about the founder, as we were growing, that was some of our challenges as well. And the CEO and COO is a husband-wife team. They voluntarily profit shared every year, despite that it was in nobody's contract. At the end of the year, they would pay the taxes, they'd figure out what they made, and then they would just spread out part of the proceeds. Just because they felt that was the right thing to do. They genuinely cared. In addition, we tried to pay our staff well, even though we were a small company, which limited our ability to do some of that. We tried to make sure people were paid well. We offered really good benefits for a company of that nature. In fact, when we got bought out, one of the conversations that I had with the new HR people was that they were decreasing the benefits that we were getting as with the larger company coming in and buying us out. And it was like, oh my goodness, like we are losing some of our opportunities with this. And I think I can say this with humility, but also authenticity. I built really good training. I've been in training and development for a lot of years, and I can tell you that I had people that had been in that industry for 40, 50 years saying, I've never worked at a company that had this type of a training. So we wanted to empower our people. We wanted to give them the tools, and yet, despite all of that and much more that's not on your screen, we were regularly haunted by the words that keep all of us up at night, and those words are the words, I quit. It got particularly bad for us when we had somebody who waited until those profits were shared and then turned in their 2-week resignation. And that was a 10-year tenured employee. And it was like, what are we doing wrong? We literally just paid her money that she did not have coming per her contract, but she knew, because she'd been around long enough, that come July, there's going to be a bump in the paycheck. She waited till it was announced, and then, by the way, tomorrow's my last day. I'm taking the rest of my vacation. And I was fairly new at the organization when that happened. I think I'd only been there about 2 months as the training manager, and I got a call. I was in the middle of my own housewarming party, and I got a call from my operational director, and he goes, hey, can I borrow you for 10 minutes? And I was like, what's going on? And he said, Heidi just quit, and I need somebody that doesn't have a vested interest, that might actually be able to ask her questions, and that she might actually give the truth to, and figure out what is going on. And so I functioned at that moment as the closest thing that we had as a small company to a third-party feedback implementer, where I came in and I was like, hey, you barely know me, but what the heck? and what went wrong? And we didn't get all of the answers from Heidi, but I'm going to tell you what we did do. As we recognize this is a problem, I'm going to keep hitting that button if I'm not careful. There we go. We decided to take the road less traveled, and the first thing that we did is we asked for feedback. Now, I know that raise your hand if you have some sort of feedback mechanism in your company, an anonymous portal, a survey that goes out once a year, somebody that walks the floor, something. Okay, most companies have feedback, and I'm not trying to insult anybody. Most of the times we do it absolutely ineffectively. Most of our feedback functions and implementations are not designed to get feedback. They're designed to tell us what we want to hear so that we can say, of course, we've got a 98% satisfaction rating. But then why do we have a 35% turnover rate? Those numbers don't jive. So when I say we went for feedback, I mean we actually went for feedback. We created anonymous sources where people could actually give us feedback, and I could spend an entire 3 sessions just on effective feedback implementation of what I've learned in the last several years on how to do that correctly. But I'll say that in that company, we did the best we could. We, again, kind of as a third-party implementer, I came in, we reached at different levels of the organization, we reached at different departments in the organization, we created a truly, side door, truly anonymous feedback portal where even IT did not know who had actually submitted those things. And once we got the feedback, we genuinely looked at it. We reflected on it. Now, I'm going to ask for some vulnerability again right now. How many of you are going to be willing to be honest and say we do feedback and then it goes into a drawer and we don't look at it again until next year? Thank you. Thank you. A lot of companies, either that's what they do, or even if it's not what they do, it's how their staff feel that they're doing. I cannot tell you how many staff members I have talked to over the years where they go, yeah, they put out a survey, but nothing ever happens. And that's why we talk for hours about this, because feedback is really, really, it's got to be very intentional. We reflected on what was said. In many cases, we were able to take action. Now, does that mean we gave people everything they wanted? How many of you could give your staff everything they asked for every single time? Okay, very good. I was hoping there'd be a hand up, because then I'm going to work for you. Forget lunch. I just want, because if I get whatever I want, no, we can't. But what we did do is we were able to find things that were immediate wins. We noticed, because of this feedback, that we had actually created a little bit of us versus them by accident, because we had a different expectation of dress code for people that were in the office as opposed to those that worked away from home or away from the office. Well, that was noticed. And myself and the director of operations went to the CEO, who was the one that was like, no, they will dress this way at the office. And we were like, we're wearing jeans. Why can't they wear jeans? We're not going to keep implementing that. Enforcing that. We have to actually make a change. There were some easy little changes. There were also some much bigger and much more difficult changes that took time. But we took action. And then we did it again. What do you mean we did it again? I mean that we repeated the process. We did not assume that because we took action, we fixed everything. Here's what happens with the feedback circle like this, is that once you fix one thing, all it does is give somebody something else to complain about. All right, half of you are still asleep, because that should have gotten a lot more laughter. No, it really does, but here's the reality, and this is something that I hope that we already know, but maybe we can make a change. You're not getting real feedback for at least 3 rounds. And that's assuming you actually do something with the feedback. The first time someone gives you feedback, they're telling you either what they think you want to hear, or they're like just testing the water to see how much trouble they get in. How many of you have seen the memes of, the next day after the anonymous feedback survey, and they're getting issued out in cuffs? Right? Like, that's the mentality that people have. If I give you feedback, it's gonna come back on me. So it takes a while to get feedback. We repeated this process multiple times. More feedback, more reflection, more action, and we learned some really interesting things through this cycle that we went through over and over again. The first one is the staff actually did notice what we were doing. Like, they felt fairly paid. They were like, no, we were really happy. That's one of the things that really attracts us to this company. They, for the most part, really enjoyed their work. We had made an effort to make sure they, right people, right places, that kind of thing. And for the most part, we didn't have hardly anybody, even through multiple cycles, say, yeah, I really hate my job. I came here expecting to do X, and you've got me over here in M. It's not even just Y or Z. It's like the whole other side of the alphabet. They mostly liked their work. They seemed, at least verbally, to appreciate the efforts we were making, both at the beginning of, we appreciate the bonuses, and then toward the end, we appreciate that you're asking, things like that. They seem to really appreciate that. Most of the things that were supposed to work seem to be working. And that might be kind of where we are all just like, oh, but what? Like, you were supposed to find one of those that wasn't working. That's why I'm sitting here this morning, right? What surprised us was where we found we had our biggest gap. Because despite all of those things, what they did not feel is they did not feel heard, they did not feel generally supported, and they did not feel empowered or equipped. And that caught us by surprise, because again, at the executive level, we were doing everything we could to listen. We were doing everything we could to train. We were doing everything that we could to meet these needs, and yet they did not feel like they were being met. And as we further explored the root of what was going on, our biggest gap that we found was our frontline leaders. You addressed this just a second ago when you said you had a bunch of people that had been promoted, and you had to do something about that. Now, for the purpose of our time together, we will define our frontline leaders, and we'll define them as one who's on the front lines or ground level of an organization and is leading a team. Some other names you might hear: aspiring leaders, emerging leaders, advancing leaders. These are the leaders that are actively working with your people day in and day out. Usually they have titles like supervisor or team lead, maybe department manager. These are, again, you're not thinking executive level. So if you're thinking executive level right now, I need you to bring that down at least to 2 levels. Get out of the C-suite, out of the VPs, maybe even out of director, depending on how large of an organization you're a part of, and get down into the people. You mentioned a minute ago that you can't be with the founder every day when you have multiple sites. Who are they with every day? That's the leader that we're talking about for the purpose of this conversation. And this is where we found we had our biggest gap. And this is the reason why I think we hired new people. Anybody in here hire ever? Yeah, okay. All right, some of you are not hiring. That's good to know. All right, and we trained those people. How many of you give training to your new hires? Yep. And then statistically, I think it's like 10 to 15% of the people that we hire kind of just rise to the top. They're the all-stars of the organization, right? And what do we do for the people who are your all-stars in your organization? We promote them. Of course we promote them. You're doing great. You're kicking butt and taking names, and guess what? We're going to take you out of that job and put you in a completely different job. We promote them. That's exactly what we were doing. All right? The best employees were usually promoted, whether that was the technical best or the subject matter best, or sometimes it's not even necessarily that they're the best, it's that they've been around the longest and they're kind of like, hey, we got to reward this loyalty. We want to make sure that they don't think that they're stuck. So they've been here 5 years, 10 years, whatever, and so we have this role, and if we don't give it to them, they're gonna leave, and then we lose all that knowledge, right? And so it's very natural. If you're doing that, I'm not here to tell you that's a bad idea. I'm telling that's just what we all do. That is what we all do. That's exactly what we did. And I don't even think there's anything wrong with that, but what we failed to realize, or at least failed to acknowledge, is that when one is promoted into leadership, their role changes from 100% operations or sales, and those are broad terms. I know there's like finance and there's this and there's that, but whatever their job is, we're just gonna kind of loop that into either you're making money for the company or you're supporting that, right? Ops or sales, and it changes from 100% operations and sales, and the minute they get promoted, it changes to 20% operations and 80% relations. And I cannot tell you how many individuals I have talked with who got promoted and this conversation sounded something like, hey, you're doing such a great job. You're here every day and you do your job really well and your team loves you. And so you probably noticed that we haven't had a team lead for your team for the last couple of months. And we were just thinking that maybe you might want to take that role. It's not a big deal. Don't worry. Just kind of keep your ears and your eyes on the team. Help them out as they need it. Support them. Help them do as good as you're doing. And if you have any problems, just let us know. And we're going to give you a couple $1 raise. How's that sound? And they walk out like, I can pay down my credit card debt. And nobody tells them we just changed your job by 80%. And very few of us put the tools in place to actually fix that. We trained our people operationally, and we did a really good job of that. But we never trained our people relationally. And so we had some of our best players who we were getting feedback about, and I'll never forget this conversation. The conversation was with a woman named Julissa, and she was talking about her supervisor, Fernando. And Julissa said, Fernando's amazing. He knows his job so well. He does a great job, but when I come to him and ask him questions, he acts like I'm stupid because I don't know the answer. No one had ever taught Fernando how to have patience and how to deliver that information other than just do it. Just watch. Here, I'll do it for you this time, and now you can do it next time. And we had never filled that gap. And so as we were working through this entire situation, we wanted to see what we could do about that. We're going to go ahead and go back into our groups. If you came in a minute ago or sometime since we had groups, I had everybody stand, find a group of people, and discuss some things. We're going to do that again right now. If you were not here last time, find a group. I'm sure they will be friendly. If they're not, just force your way in. We'll just, it doesn't matter. I would like us to answer these 3 questions. Do you currently have a frontline leadership development strategy? We already know you do, so you can tell everyone how you do it. If yes, what are you doing? And if not, what is preventing that? Let's take about 3 to 5 minutes to answer that question, and we'll invite you all to stand up and wake up again. I know it's morning, and it's like, I don't want to move. Why do you keep making me move? 30 seconds left, 30 seconds left. Please begin wrapping it up and bring our attention back. Here's some fantastic conversations. Let's begin with just a raise of hands. How many already have some form of frontline leadership development strategy? Okay, about half of you. That's fantastic. I really am happy to hear that. Who would like to share what they are doing?
We use a platform, it's kind of industry specific.
Okay.
I work in commercial landscape.
Okay.
And so we utilize a tool called Element, and within that framework they have a tool called Greenius. And so we utilize that for all of our OSHA trainings and things like that. And so we're developing that a little bit further, and we are developing, they're called learning paths. So for instance, right now I'm working on a learning path for employees that are going from crew leads to production manager. And so there's a bunch of online courses they take, and it focuses less on the how and more the why and the relational aspects of things.
Awesome, thank you so much. Let's give her a hand, please.
Thank you.
For those, or for one of you who said you did not raise your hand, you're not doing something, would you be willing to share what's preventing that right now?
Yeah, currently, right now, what's preventing us from doing it is each of the 10 departments that make up our organization truly functioned in their own right, with development, with training, with promotions, and over the past 5 to 10 years of our new director, we keep trying to become less siloed. We just completed a strategic plan where training is highlighted, so we will have the whole organization buy-in, for lack of a better word. We'll see. I have a couple here. And yeah, but we'll have the support of the leadership team, and it's what our employees have been screaming for a decade.
Awesome, thank you so much. Let's give him a hand. Appreciate you, sir. So, much like many of you either have already learned or you're thinking about right now, we were trying to fill this gap. We found the gap in our organization, we were trying to fill it, and I didn't find much that was available that I felt actually filled the gap. When I looked for leadership training as the training manager, and remember, or I shouldn't say remember, this is a kind of a fact that maybe makes sense, but I haven't shared. I was the operational training manager because I worked for an organization where, despite doing everything we could to do really well, it was kind of old school CEO, and it was kind of, they were the people, I told you to do it, now just do it. Not like, what do you mean I got to like hold your hand through this? Like you're a human being and actually have to learn things the way human beings do, right? And so I was specifically told, that's fine if you need to do that, if you feel like that's what's necessary, that's great, but I need you to stay focused on operational training. Why don't you bring in some outside resources to try to help? And so I was like, okay, we can do that. But what I found was, instead of at least what I felt was going to help us where I was, I found a lot of executive leadership training. A lot of that opportunity out there. We're now 3 or 4 years down the road. Now I say that everyone who's been an assistant manager at Arby's thinks they're an executive leadership coach. I found a lot of the compliance type management training, like you've just mentioned. I found a lot of that. I was in the logistics industry, so DOT, TSA, all of that stuff that was designed for leaders that were supervising teams that were doing those things. I found a lot of operational leadership training. Here's how you can, get into this new system, because now you're going to be supervising people in this system. And so you need to learn how to manage the back end, or put in payroll, or put, adjust hours, or whatever, operational. And I found what I call, and I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes here today, I found a whole lot of what I refer to as check the box training. That is the stuff that is primarily in a platform, and it sounds like this: go and get your training done. Now, I'm not here to insult anybody, but the platforms, the videos, the webinars, those things I did not feel were going to address the problem. How many of you have taken an online webinar sometime in the last 6 months? How many of you can tell me anything you learned from that online webinar right now? But we expect our people to. Here's the better question: how many of you were also checking your email or doing something else during that online webinar? We all do it. We all do it. But if we send them to this webinar, or we send them to watch this video, we can check a box and we can say, I gave them training. I also found a lot of what I call click-through training, which is that just, you can click, 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 click. I've been trained. And I think most of what we see, most of what is offered out there, is a Band-Aid at best. It lets us hold them accountable to this training we gave them, but it sends the wrong message. And I give this example quite frequently. If somebody comes to you as HR, maybe they're a junior manager of some sort, and they say, hey, I've got this employee, and I'm going to have one of those critical conversations with them, right? And I don't really know what to say. Can you give me some guidance? And you genuinely want to help. I'm not here to attack anybody here this morning. You genuinely want to help. You also have a pile of paperwork that you're working on right now, and any number of other things that prevents you from taking 2 hours to train this individual. And so what do? You say, oh man, absolutely, let me get you some resources to help you with that conversation. I'm going to send you a couple of videos, as well as like an outline that would help you with that. And so you send them a couple of YouTube links and maybe an outline that has worked well for you when having those difficult conversations, and they walk back to their area, their desk, their floor, whatever it is, and what's the message they just got? When you have a problem, give someone a video. And instead of addressing the issue with that person, instead of sitting down with them and saying, hey, let's have an honest and authentic conversation, I don't know how to do that, but I know how to give someone a video because I just got showed that. And so now, if the issue is you're being rude, I'm going to find a compliance video on how to have kindness or empathy in my conversation. I'm going to say, hey, watch this video for me. And then I'm going to hope that should solve the problem. That's what I found a whole lot of. I found a lot of that type of stuff, and I didn't think it was going to work. I didn't think it was going to solve the problem. I didn't think it was going to make our people feel more seen, more heard, more respected, more valued, more empowered, any of that. I felt like what it was going to do is it was going to let me as the training manager say, I trained you. What do you want from me? But I've always approached training, whether I was a martial arts instructor of 5-year-old children or I was a corporate instructor, I've always approached in training from the perspective of my job is to give you what you need to do your job better. And I couldn't in good conscience say that's what I was doing for our frontline leaders if I had used that methodology. So what did we do? Since we couldn't find a good external option, I began to try to fill that option internally. And you may remember I said we took the difficult road on purpose. One of the things that we recognized is that we needed to use engagement over platitudes. How many of you remember, maybe when you weren't quite as influential in your organizations, when people would tell you the thing that it was technically right, but you knew there was no heart behind it and you knew you weren't actually going to get support from that statement? How many of you have had a manager that knew all the right things to say, but you didn't actually feel supported by them because you knew their heart wasn't in it? I'm not asking if you have that manager now, don't worry, I'm not, We didn't want a platform, we didn't want click-through, we didn't want check the box. We also did not ask, how can we fix this? You might think that's weird. Why wouldn't you ask, how can we fix this? Because we didn't want it to be a we fixed it. What we wanted to ask is, how can we empower them to fix this? How can we give them what they need so that they can create a culture, so that they can experience an enjoyable work life, not because somebody, the training manager, came in and fixed it, but because it was fostered, because it was facilitated, because it was derived through collaborative efforts. We also chose empowerment over education. This is another controversial statement here. When I say this, I'm not saying education is bad, but here's what I'm saying. In my opinion, education is giving you information. I've educated you. Empowerment ensures that you actually know how to use that information. It's kind of the difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. There's a difference between the two. I can give you all of the information. Maybe you have worked in a position before where you got there and they gave you this manual of training that you were expected to read and then figure it out. And you were like, professionally, of course, WTF? What is this going to do for me? Because it was a lot of knowledge. It was educational, but it wasn't empowering. We wanted not to just transfer information. We wanted to do more. We wanted to facilitate habits. We wanted to encourage failure so that those lessons could actually be learned experientially, not just knowledgeably. We wanted to be the example that we hoped they would follow. And then we chose that feedback over ignorance. It's so easy to roll something out and be so enthusiastic and so this is the solution and we're so happy about it that we just assume it fixed everything and we're not actually vulnerable enough to say, hey, did all of that effort and expense and everything we just did it actually do any good? Did it actually meet any of the needs that you were saying that you had? Or did we just put a Band-Aid on it so that we could feel good about what we were doing, but it didn't actually give you any of the tools that you needed to effectively engage in your responsibilities as team players and team leaders? We tried to listen more than we talked. We refused to hear what we wanted to hear and instead listened for the heart behind what they said. And we did our very best to pivot based on the needs of our people. And we made several changes, including in our very first round. Well, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me not do that. I'll mess with it. In that first round of our leadership development program, how it worked for us. In the first iteration of our leadership development program, we invested 12 weeks of 30-minute facilitated conversation sessions into every single one of our frontline leaders. So that was, I believe, 14 leaders that we required to go through this training. And it wasn't really training. It was 30 minutes of here's the topic. Let's talk about how this topic impacts us. And we talked about things that were transferable. So whether you're in landscaping or you're in manufacturing or you're in aviation or you're in logistics, we talked about things like how your attitude is going to impact the attitude of the rest of the team. We talked about integrity, how if the way you work when you think no one is watching is the way your team is going to work when they think you're not watching. We talked about communication and how to frame things in a way that means the most to the person you're talking to. We had these facilitated conversations. In the second iteration, instead of requiring people to do it, which we did the first time, we had 14 people the first time. In the second iteration, we made it voluntary and anyone in the company was allowed to jump in on this next 12-week cycle of facilitated conversations. It was a little bit more structured in the second round, and we told everybody that. I distinctly remember putting out the video. Hey guys, we're gonna do that leadership training again. This time anyone can join, but if you're gonna join, you should know it's gonna be tough. There's going to be an expectation that you will do homework on your own time because we want you to invest in you the same way we are investing in you. There's going to be papers, there's going to be, not papers, but essays, there's going to be work that you need to do. It's going to be tough and it's going to take extra time both from you as well as from the time you would normally be doing your job. Does anybody remember how many people I said we had working for the company? 75 to 85, kind of depending on when we were talking about. Of the 75 to 85 people in that second iteration when it was voluntary and we told everyone it was going to be a long and uphill climb, we had 57 people sign up for that training. 57. What we found out is that we had already started to experience a culture shift, and two things had happened. The first thing that happened was that people started to notice the change, and the second thing was when that second opportunity came around, the people that were in the first one went and told everyone else, hey, you guys want to be in this? This is something that's going to be valuable. And people signed up. It was hard. Not everybody graduated. Not everybody finished. Of the 57 that signed up initially, we made them actually submit a very short, I think a 3 to 5 sentence essay on why they wanted to be in the class by a certain deadline. Of the 57 people that thought it was a good idea to sign up, I think we lost 8 just on that exercise alone. Not everyone's gonna follow through, but that was their opportunity, and they had to take ownership of that. We weren't forcing them, we weren't mad at them. One thing they had to come to terms with, though, is that anybody that wanted to be promoted was gonna have to have that on their resume. So we wanted them to pre-invest in their own future, but then they had to actually follow through, and we made it tough. And the director of operations and I worked very closely to make it tough. At the end of our first session, we did a random and anonymous survey asking just one question, not of the leaders, but of their teams. And the one question that we asked was, have you noticed any changes in your immediate supervisor in the last 2 to 3 months? It's a very open-ended. We didn't say, have you noticed any improvements? We didn't say, do you like your supervisor? We didn't lead. Have you noticed any changes in your supervisor in the last 2 to 3 months? The feedback we got was remarkable. Oh, this one. Jose said, not sure what's going on, but it feels like they actually care about me. Maria said, yes, it seems like they're trying to listen more and communicate more clearly. And I think he has become more patient with us. Remember I talked about Julissa with Fernando? That was her response after the training. The one that treats me like I'm stupid when I ask a question. That was her response. They did not know that we had asked that question. We had asked the team members to keep it confidential. Whether they did or not, you never know, right? That's always a hit and miss thing. But what I do know is when we played some of these responses for them at the end of that training, there were literal tears. The impact was made, and what we noticed was a major cultural shift, and we also noticed that we had a complete change of hiring strategy. We had gone from a situation where we had to hire 3 to 5 people every month just to replace the constant turnover in the organization, and basically if you were breathing, had a pulse, and spoke English, you probably were going to get the job. That shifted to where we would have 1 to 2 positions that were available, often for growth, not because of turnover, and we would have 20 to 30 applicants that we could pick the A team from. Why? Because the culture shifted over the course of about a year, and all of a sudden people are out in their community talking about, hey, this is a great place to work. And we had family members and friends and cousins and all kinds of people. We're like, okay, who do you know here? We had people, I've got 3 people that work in different departments in this company. So what we learned as an organization, I've shared today, I want you to know we have learned, personally, I've shared with you, the flashy options didn't actually fix it. There's nothing wrong with flashy options. Platforms are great. They synchronize things. They make things a little bit easier, but that's not getting to the heart of your people. We also have learned that listening is powerful. And I mean authentic listening, not just tell me and then I'm going to walk away and not remember anything you said. But if you haven't gotten this line, I hope you do. Frontline leaders are your linchpins. The reason that most of your strategies are not working is not because you are broken. It is not because you don't care. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because the people that your teams interact with 8 hours a day, every day, are not you. It's not your CEO. It's not your director. It's their frontline leader. And a study came out, I believe it was last year, maybe the year before, that said your frontline leaders have the same impact on your people's mental health as their spouses do. That is an incredible amount of responsibility that we're placing in the hands of these frontline leaders. Are we giving them the relational tools to make it work? And I just hit the wrong button again. There we go. Empowerment has to be personal. It can't be out there, go. It has to be come, let's do this together. And the last thing I want you to know is that if this seems bigger than you anticipated, if you're sitting here going, oh my goodness, John, like I get it, but you don't understand. I am buried. I don't have time to do even 30-minute conversations. We don't have time for that. I get it. I really do. And I want you to walk out with an actionable strategy, and I'm gonna show you how that's gonna work. So right now I need 2 volunteers. Can I get 2 volunteers to come help pass some things out for me? Don't everybody jump. All right, come on. If I got 4 of you, then we'll get passed out twice as fast. Should be enough. I think there's only about 30 of you in the room. Can I just have you pass those out? And if somebody, yep. We're We're going to give you a 7-page worksheet here this morning that will take you step by step through the process that we used 4 years ago at a company that I don't work for anymore. You see the frontline leadership empowerment evaluation. There's going to be an assessment, a reflection, a plan, an engagement, and a repeat strategy. It is all there with the lines and the check marks and the boxes and the note taking and everything. And if you will engage this page by page, at minimum, you will have an listed out strategy for what you can do in, we'll just say 2026, since we're almost at the end of 2025. I want you to notice on step 3 in the plan, there are specific places to say these are the people that are going to have to actually take action. It is not enough to say, yeah, we're going to do something about this. Great. Who's going to be responsible? Who's going to be the one that does those 30-minute sessions? Thank you so much. I appreciate your help. To both of you, thank you. You continue on, you've got the whole TNT plan method. Engage it, actually do it, and then repeat. And then I've got at the end here, repeat dates. How many of you have worked for an organization that they roll out new things about once a year and everyone kind of huffs and puffs, but nobody really cares because they know within a few months it's going to be forgotten and no one will ever bring it up again? We are not going to let that happen. We have repeat dates there. Obviously, we've given you a hard copy here today of that. However, this is the last part. Before you begin, there's a letter that we put there at the end. But if you want this digitally, because let's just be honest, you're going to lose this, all right? You're going to walk out of here this morning with everything else, and then you're going to go to 19 other sessions today, and then you're going to try to travel home, and you're going to forget this. So no worries. It's only $99. No, I'm joking. You send email to resources@servantmindedleadership.com. And we would love to send you this as a PDF so that you have it and you can print it and you can give it to your entire executive team, or you can do whatever it is that you need to do with it. And we would love to provide that for you. Oh, did everyone get that? Okay, very good. Our key takeaways today. Frontline leaders impact the day-to-day operations and experience more than anything. They're the people that are making or breaking your organization. Check-the-box solutions are always going to produce check-the-box results. It's your choice, but it will be your outcome as well. And lastly, human assets deserve a human engagement experience. These are human beings, and they have to be treated as such. We don't have a ton of time, but I think we got about 5 minutes. Oh, we got questions already. She didn't even wait. Yes, ma'am.
So step 3, I haven't read through this.
Yep.
But, we have large departments. We might have director, manager, 2, 3 supervisors, and then also 5 or 6 different foremen.
Yeah.
Smaller groups. So when we do these 30-minute conversations, how large should that group be? I mean, who's all involved? Is it HR, director, manager, or do you get the foremen in together so they can start talking with each other and share some of their experiences? How should that actually be facilitated?
First of all, I want to just acknowledge that every company is going to be different, and I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all. Personally, what I would do is I would prioritize who they're spending the most time with. So if you have that many levels, ideally your directors are not spending a ton of time with your ground level. They're, of course, going to be feeding into the managers who are feeding into the supervisors, and so you kind of have that cascade effect. But here's what I think we go wrong a lot of times. We think if we invest at the top, it will trickle its way down. Watch one episode of Undercover Boss, and I will prove to you that does not work. So I would say start. These are relational skills. This has nothing to do with their job description. This has nothing to do with, do you know how to use the system? This has nothing to do with access or credentials. Start with the people who are spending the most time with your teams, and then make sure it goes up from there. I have been notorious for telling people, be the boss you wish you had. Because if you're waiting for the upper level to do it before the next level does it, you'll be waiting 20 years because you got to get everybody on board. Just start where you're going to make the most impact, which is the day-to-day experience of your employees.
You mentioned a few of the questions that you had utilized, and they were honestly great questions that I hadn't thought of before. Do you have a list of some of the questions you used for this?
No, but I should create one.
That would be so helpful.
That's a fantastic... At the end, I'm going to be showing a QR code for my LinkedIn. You're welcome to connect me. Would you be willing to send me that? Just so, because I'm going to be honest, just like you're going to lose the papers, I'm going to forget the question, all right? I'm just going to own that right now. Probably 1, maybe 2 more questions, depending on how long they are.
Not everybody at once.
Yes, ma'am.
What were some examples of your 12 session topics?
So attitude, integrity, communication, nurturing, how to make sure you're actually nurturing and bringing up your team. Ownership is one that I highly, highly recommend. And I'll just give you a tidbit. This is not a sales pitch, but when I do or when SML does training in this nature, we have an entire session on ownership where our big key thing is that fault and responsibility have nothing to do with each other. Forget about whose fault it is. You're the leader. It's your responsibility. So ownership, things like that. We have, in our first one, the frontline, we call it foundational pillars of leadership now. We have 9 different targets, and then we have 2 review weeks because we all forget things. Remember, we're human beings. I was a martial arts instructor. People paid me to teach them how to do this stuff. And how many times did I have to correct them again and again? It wasn't because they didn't want to learn. It's because we don't learn the first time. So having those mechanisms in place are part of the strategy as well.
What size were your sessions?
We usually try to keep them under 30 people. The other thing that I did, and this is, I know this is really tough, but because we had so many people, it was perfect. We ended up doing 3 separate shifts, and we made sure everybody, including third shift, got live training. We had a practice for many years of third shift kind of getting the video afterput, and that kind of relegates them into second-class citizens. And so I personally was getting up at 4 a.m. to be a part of their training. I mean, if you can't do it for a month or even 12 weeks, right? Like, it's one day for 30 minutes to invest in their overall success. It's tough, but that was how we felt we needed to move forward. One more question. Or not, because I can.
Can you repeat those things again about attitude, communication, ownership?
Sure. Here's what I'll do. Here's what I'll do. If you go to our website, we actually have the foundational pillars of leadership, which would be that, and it'll list all the sessions right there, and that'll give you that entire list, even the way that we're currently doing it for organizations. There's also one we call Leaders Win, which is a 5-session, and the Advanced Leadership Disciplines, which is a 36-session that gets a little bit more into the weeds. So there's a variety. But the other thing is, I have these lists up here, which is workshop modules. These are all of the things that we recommend you talk about over time. So happy to grab those. Yeah, feel free. Okay. Let's move on because we're almost done. If you want to get in touch with me or my company, this QR code will get you in touch with all of the peeps. That's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, our website, apparently a logo that doesn't exist anymore on the lower right-hand corner. Not sure what's going on there. That's probably YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel that, because you want to send people to watch videos, right? So we got a YouTube channel that has like 400 videos on there now. If you want to connect with us, please feel free to do that. If you would like to connect with me personally, I would invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I am very, very active on LinkedIn. I also do have business cards up front if you want to come grab one, and then you can get more of my information. But LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I make it a point not to try to sell you something every 5 seconds when you connect with me on LinkedIn. So that's a plus. One last thing. Are you all ready for the sales pitch? No, you're not. Don't lie to me right now. However, if you are interested, it is in the bookstore out front. We do have Servant-Minded Leadership, How Mindfulness Changes Servant Leadership. This is out in the bookstore, available. You can get it on Amazon. That's what that QR code will do. But I would assume that you would like to not pay shipping and tax, and you can do that by getting it out in the bookstore. And I will be sitting, I think, out front. I don't know where we're doing this, but I'm supposed to sign these things somewhere here today, right after this session and right after my 3 o'clock session. So they're available. Yes, ma'am.
It'll be right by the raffle ticket basket.
Okay.
Not a raffle basket. There's a table there, right?
Okay.
The store corner.
Right by the raffle ticket basket. So if you grab one of those books, I would love to sign that for you here today. One last thing, no pressure whatsoever on this one. If you hated this session, this was the dumbest thing you've ever heard in your life, and you just want to warn everybody else, let me know so that I can fix it before the 3 o'clock session, yeah? Because I would really like to get the next group a better experience if this was terrible. If you liked it, let them know. If you loved this, though, and you feel like these are the types of conversations more companies need to be having, I would like to invite you to leave a Google review on SML right now. That QR code will take you to our Google review page, and you can say, hey, this was an amazing session, and I really think more people should know about what this company is working on, what they're trying to do, and the gaps that they are trying to fill. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute privilege and honor to spend and share this time with you. I'll be just outside and signing books if anybody would like that in just a moment. But for now, I thank you so much, and I wish you a fantastic rest of your day. Give yourselves a hand.